Hey guys, tonight we travel deep into the sweltering, fragrant heart of 10th century Java. Picture this. The thick scent of frangipani clings to the air. Gamelan music chimes softly from somewhere unseen, and the palace walls shimmer under layers of lacquer, humidity and secrets. You glide barefoot over polished teak, your silks whispering around your legs. You've just become the 9th wife of a Javanese emperor, a man as feared as he is worshipped, and already the petals of your welcome bouquet are starting to wilt. You think beauty is a gift. Here, it's more like bait. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment with your location and local time. I always love seeing where everyone's tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're 17, recently perfumed, freshly hennaed, and officially property. The ceremony was dazzling. Flaming torches, chanting priests, rice thrown in ritual arcs, and your face was painted with the powdered pollen of a flower whose name you still can't pronounce. You remember blinking slowly through the haze, the emperor's fingers brushing your wrist for just a moment. That was your introduction to your new life. A man with 50 years and 5 decades of power behind his eyes, and you, draped in imported Chinese silk, barely out of girlhood. The palace from the outside resembles a golden dream. Red-painted pavilions rise above pools lined with floating candles. Carp glide like secrets beneath the water. You arrived in a palanquin, barely breathing, and stepped through a jasmine-drenched archway into a world where the walls seem to watch you. But from the inside? From the inside, the palace is a maze, a humid, honey-slick prison with no locks. Because really, where would you even go? They give you a servant named Amara, who's twice your age and none too gentle with your hair. She's been here too long to fake smiles. On your first morning, she tells you plainly, the 8th wife cried herself to fever. Don't do that. You don't ask what happened to wife number 7. You quickly learn that in the court of King Dharmawangsa Tegu, the harem is less of a love nest and more of a chessboard. You're a pawn. A decorative pawn with very nice earrings, sure, but disposable all the same. The emperor has wives, concubines, dancers, and even a rumoured mistress who only appears on full moons. Historians still argue whether she was real or a symbol of the moon goddess, but to you the distinction hardly matters. Either way, she ranks higher than you. By day, you're given lessons in court poetry and how to bow without wrinkling your sarong. You learn to smile precisely 3 teeth wide, never laugh too loud, and absolutely never eat before someone else has touched your plate first. Poison, darling. It's not just for enemies. At night, the rooms grow quieter than they should be. You notice things. A servant girl gone, her bedding folded too neatly, an oil lamp snuffed out even though it was just filled, and once, only once, you hear a distant scream, quickly swallowed by drums. You aren't allowed to sleep in the emperor's wing unless summoned. Instead, you sleep in a pavilion filled with carved teak, moonlight, and dread. There are 9 rooms like yours, arranged around a central lotus pond. It's a beautiful place to cry, so most nights someone does. The 9th wife. It's a title that sounds better than it feels. You're last in rank, last in the procession, last to speak. The other wives range from polite to openly cruel. Wife 4 calls you Little Branch, like you might snap. Wife 2 doesn't call you anything at all, just stares from beneath eyelids painted with crushed beetle shells. They tell you to smile more. They tell you not to look the emperor in the eye. They tell you not to get pregnant unless you're willing to risk it. Risk what? Oh, just everything. There's a reason they keep a priest on standby near the birthing room, because the emperor's children are seen as omens. If the stars aren't right, the child might not survive. If the child cries at the wrong hour, omen. If the child is born with a mole in the shape of a bat, definitely omen. There's a scroll somewhere in the palace that lists every celestial sign that has cursed a royal birth, and it's longer than the recipe for royal rice pudding. That's not a joke. Royal rice pudding takes 6 hours and 17 ingredients, including a root that smells like sweaty sandalwood. You try to make allies, you really do, but the smiles you get are rehearsed, the compliments dipped in vinegar. Even the girl who shows you how to wear your hair in the emperor's favourite style whispers, "Don't trust me either." The emperor sees you on your 3rd evening. He doesn't say much, just looks at you while a dancer performs with flaming hoops. You feel your skin go cold under the firelight. He gestures vaguely and your food is changed out. You're not sure if that's good or bad. Later, Amara tells you, it means he saw something in your eyes. Then she adds, or in your plate. Either way, that's how it begins. Not with love, not with a grand moment of connection, but with an exchange of glances over rice and roasted bird. You lie awake that night, arms crossed over your silk-clad chest, wondering which is more dangerous here, being noticed or being ignored. You wake to the rustle of silk, not your own, and a low voice humming a melody that isn't meant for joy. It's Amara again, brushing out your hair with the kind of care you'd give a prize animal, efficient, cold, practical. Your neck aches from sleeping too stiffly, afraid that even your dreams might betray you. Today you learn the rules of being the 9th wife. Not the ceremonial ones, the real ones, the whispered ones, the ones no official ever writes down, but that every woman in the harem follows as if her life depends on it. Because, well, it does. Rule 1, never wear gold on a day that wife 2 wears rubies. Not because it's unfashionable, but because she sees it as disrespect. And disrespect here, that's like leaving your jug of water out during monsoon season. Something nasty will grow in it. Rule 2, don't speak unless you're asked, and even then, make sure your answer flatters at least 3 people. One wrong word, and suddenly the kitchen is out of your favourite fruit for the next month, or the temple gate is mysteriously locked every time you wish to pray. And Rule 3, the one Amara tells you last, her voice barely above breath, don't think beauty protects you. Here, it marks you. You start noticing the way the guards glance away when you pass, not out of modesty but discomfort. You're the new piece on a board that's already in motion. Everyone else has been playing for years. You're a fresh opportunity or a threat, or both. The Emperor's attention shifts like the wind off the sea, warm one moment, sharp the next. One day he sends mangoes to your chamber with a silk note that says, for brightness. The next, he doesn't look at you at all during the temple procession. You nearly trip walking behind him, distracted by the sudden silence. No one helps you up. Your bare knee scrapes against the palace stones, and even the sun seems to turn away. You hear things. The servants say wife 6 once spilled a secret and woke up with no hair. Wife 3 tried to poison wife 5's pet monkey out of spite. That backfired, because the monkey wasn't the real target. Historians still argue whether that tale is exaggerated or real, but the monkey's empty gilded cage still sits by the baths, flowers placed in it every 3rd full moon. Wife 7, as it turns out, wasn't officially dismissed. She simply stopped being mentioned. And then there's your chamber itself. Gilded, yes, but undeniably lonely. You have screens painted with birds you've never seen in real life, cushions that smell faintly of lavender, and something older, darker. A jade comb appears one day with no explanation. You admire its delicate teeth until you spot the single red thread tangled in it. Human hair, not yours. You decide not to use it. Your meals are served on lacquered trays, but no one ever eats with you. Not even Amara, who always waits just outside the door in silence. Sometimes she hums, a lullaby perhaps, or a warning. You're called to a gathering in the moon garden, an evening of song and poetry under woven lanterns. The wives sit in a half circle, their shadows long and twitching on the pale stones. You arrive last, as always. No seat has been prepared for you, so you stand. You can feel the laughter behind their eyes. Wife 4 recites a poem about a young jasmine vine suffocating the older tree. Everyone claps. The subtext hits like a slap. You smile, not too wide. Later, back in your chamber, you whisper the poem again just to yourself. You wonder what kind of vine you are. A week passes. You're not summoned to the Emperor's side again, but gifts keep appearing. A roll of pale blue silk cool to the touch. A bracelet shaped like a serpent. A comb that this time, mercifully, is clean. Each one comes without note or explanation. Each one makes you feel more watched. One night, you see wife 2 leaving the Emperor's pavilion, her shoulders tense, her anklet broken. She walks straight past you in the corridor without a glance. In her wake, you hear the faintest sob, someone, not her, behind the screen. That's when you understand the hierarchy isn't just about order, it's about narrative. Who is seen, who is heard, who is believed? You try to write a letter to your mother about how the weather is lovely and the food rich and the palace breathtaking. But the paper stays blank. Because how do you say, I am fading, but in very expensive clothing, Instead, you start talking to your reflection, quietly, during baths. You watch the steam rise over your shoulders and murmur, "You're still here, still clever, still watching." It helps, a little. You take small joys where you can find them. The taste of tamarind candy hidden under your pillow, the scent of tuberose after the rains, the way your toes ripple the pond when you sneak out to sit alone under the stars. But even there, in that half-second of peace, something always stirs, a ripple that isn't yours, a shadow that lingers too long, a chill in the wind that smells faintly like cinnamon and smoke. And deep inside, beneath your beauty, your title, your silks, there's a question growing, quiet and dangerous. Why me? You're learning how to float. Not in water, though the palace has enough of that, in fountains, pools, and the mossy moats that curl around the outer gardens. No, you're floating in a different sense. In conversation, in glances, in the subtle, constant balancing act of being present without making waves. You're the 9th wife, after all. You're meant to shimmer like mist, not splash like rain. And yet, today, you feel more like driftwood than mist. You're summoned to the main hall, not alone, but as part of a procession of wives. It's for a public ceremony of allegiance to the gods, the court, and of course, the emperor himself. You kneel on woven mats arranged in order of the rank. You are, again, at the very end. From where you sit, the emperor looks distant, half swallowed by incense smoke and ritual chanting. You catch glimpses of the others. Wife 1, regal and unmoved. Wife 4, eyes darting like a trapped parrot. Wife 6, pale and oddly fidgety. Something's not right with her. You notice the way she winces as she bows, the way her hand lingers on her belly. It isn't just nerves. Then you remember, Wife 6 is pregnant. The thought sends a shiver down your back, not just because it's rare, but because of what it means. A child born of the emperor has power, unless the omens say otherwise. Then that child and the mother could both become problems, disappointments, or worse, accusations. Back in your chamber, you're quiet, Amara notices. You're thinking too hard, she says, dabbing rosewater behind your ears. That's not the 9th wife's job. You open your mouth, close it. Then finally, carefully, ask, was there ever a wife who rose in rank? Amara pauses. The silence stretches. Yes, she says. Once. And? She disappeared. So that's a no then. In the following days, Wife 6 becomes a ghost. She stops attending meals. Her laughter vanishes from the courtyard. A few attendants whisper about unsettled dreams and bad water, but you know fear when you see it. One morning her pavilion is draped in saffron cloth. You ask what it means. It means, Amara says, that the gods are being petitioned for mercy. From whom? Or for what? No one says. You should be invisible right now, but you're not. The emperor has started looking at you again. At first it's subtle, a glance during the midday poetry readings, a question sent through a servant. Does the 9th wife prefer jasmine or sandalwood incense? Then a gesture. You are summoned. Your heart stumbles into your throat. When you arrive, you're bathed, perfumed, dressed in a gold-threaded sarong that catches light like trapped fireflies. Your hair is coiled into something poetic and impractical. You can't feel your scalp. You kneel before the emperor. His chamber smells of cloves, whetstone, and a faint trace of iron. He's reclining on cushions, a tame peacock perched behind him like a bored god. You look less frightened than expected, he says. You choose your next breath carefully. I was told fear makes one ugly, you murmur. He laughs. It's a sound like a blade being unsheathed in a silk room. He asks you questions, strange ones, about your childhood, your favourite colours, your opinion on the way owls hoot before rain. You wonder if he's looking for omens in your words. Maybe he's just bored. Maybe both. Then he waves a hand and dismisses you. You weren't touched, not kissed, not kept, just observed. Back in your pavilion, Amara's waiting. She says nothing, just places a dish of honeyed rice beside you, and quietly picks a twig from your hair. You didn't tremble, she notes. You didn't. But your hands won't stop tingling now. The days blur. You are now watched more than ever. Servants linger just a heartbeat longer. Guards nod when they didn't before. One of the younger concubines, a girl barely 13, starts trailing after you like a shadow. She asks innocent questions, mostly about your hair. You lie to her, softly, sweetly. You don't trust her, not even a little. One morning, you hear laughter in the lotus courtyard. True laughter. You peer through the screens and see wife 3 barefoot, holding hands with a visiting princess. Their joy is like sunlight after storm, bright, warm, and doomed to fade. You find yourself aching for that kind of mirth, just for a moment, a flicker of being more than a piece in someone else's story. Instead, you get this: an embroidered robe, a silver ring, a dish of rice with no spoon. The message is clear: eat if you dare. No one will stop you, but no one will save you either. You don't eat. You give the dish to Amara, who immediately feeds it to a stray cat. The cat sniffs it, walks away. Message received. You've been in the palace long enough to notice the rhythm. The court has seasons, though not the kind that follow the weather. This is the season of suspicion, of vanished messengers and sudden coughs, of priests brought in for cleansing and prayers chanted backward at midnight. You begin sleeping with your door propped slightly open. You don't know if that makes you safer, but at least you'll hear them coming. One night, you dream of wife 6. She's standing in the lotus pool, hands on her swollen belly, eyes wide with something between awe and dread. You wake gasping, your bedsheets damp with sweat. Amara says it's just the heat. But the next morning, wife 6's pavilion is empty. All her belongings are gone. No one says her name again. You're called again. Not to the emperor yet, but to the Juanita Utama, the head wife. Wife 1. Her pavilion is twice the size of yours and smells like camphor, jasmine, and power. You're not given time to prepare. You arrive barefoot, heart knocking against your ribs like a prisoner begging for release. Wife 1 sits behind a carved ebony table, leafing through palm leaf manuscripts that you suspect are less about philosophy and more about surveillance. She doesn't look up. You bow. She lets you stay there for an uncomfortable amount of time before speaking. So, she finally says, he looked at you. You don't answer. That was not a question. Did he touch you? No, Kakanda, you reply quietly. A long silence. She closes her scroll and stands. She's taller than you remembered. Older, but with a stillness that makes even the air obey her. She steps closer, tilting your chin upward with one lacquered fingernail. You are quite pretty, she says. Pretty girls die fast in places like this. You can't help it. Your throat contracts. She sees it, smiles. But clever girls last. She tells you to walk with her. You do. Through the shaded corridors you go, silent as cats. No guards, no attendants, just the creak of wood beneath your feet and the whisper of silk. Eventually you reach a narrow courtyard you didn't know existed. It's shaded by mango trees, the fruit not quite ripe and quiet enough to hear ants on bark. She gestures to the stone bench. You sit. She stands. Do you know what the emperor dreams of? She asks. You hesitate. Conquest? You guess. No, she says, almost amused. He dreams of escape, of turning into a golden bird and flying over the sea, leaving all this behind, every wife, every law, even the throne. You say nothing. You feel the sting of a mosquito land on your wrist. You let it bite. She plucks a mango leaf and twirls it thoughtfully. We are all cages in our way, she says. Some of us are just more gilded than others. And with that she walks away. You remain in the courtyard long after she leaves, uncertain if you've just been warned, blessed, or measured for a coffin. That evening the emperor hosts a feast. It's the kind of affair where no one eats more than 3 bites and everyone smiles like their life depends on it. Which, let's be honest, it sort of does. You're seated 3 spots from the emperor, a noticeable promotion. He barely glances your way. But when a court poet begins reciting verses about a mythical bird who longs to fly but is caged in jade, his fingers twitch ever so slightly toward his goblet. You don't smile, you don't move, but you note it. That's how it starts with him, not with passion, with poetry. As the night wears on, a haze of clove smoke and lychee wine fills the air. You watch wives flirt like they're fishing, bait, line, and hook in every flutter of lashes. You don't join, you observe. The emperor is unpredictable. One night he laughs like a boy over a puppet show. The next he orders a musician to be banished for playing a wrong note. Historians still argue whether he was driven by divine whim or cruel calculation, but either way, it's dangerous to get too close, or too far. The palace drinks mango wine during these feasts, thick, golden, with a sweetness that sticks to your tongue. You've learned to sip slowly, to stay sharp. Tonight the air is heavy with heat and intrigue. You hear murmurs about rice shortages in the east, a governor caught embezzling temple funds, a priest dreaming of black crows. The emperor calls for a game, not dice, not music, a game of masks. A box is brought forward. Within are 10 carved masks, each representing an animal, a vice, a myth. You are invited to choose. Your fingers hover over a monkey, a serpent, a bird. But you choose the lotus. It's pale, carved from bone, with a single gold inlay. Beautiful, calm, silent. The emperor nods. You've chosen correctly. The game begins. Each wife takes on the role of her mask, speaking in riddles, acting out dramas, inventing poetry on the spot. It's all symbolism and politics disguised as play. Wife 3, wearing the serpent, hisses a poem about shedding skins and hiding daggers in smiles. Wife 4 plays the phoenix, all fire and rebirth. You, sweet little lotus, speak softly of water and roots, of quiet blooms and mud-stained strength. The emperor chuckles. A lotus that speaks, he says. That's new. You feel the gaze of every wife turn toward you like arrows. You sleep restlessly that night, dreaming of a serpent curling around your ankle. The next morning, wife 4 is sick, very sick, vomiting and pale. You overhear the healers whispering. No poison found, no fever, but she's clearly unwell. She chose fire, Amara mutters under her breath, and fire eats itself. You start to feel it, that slow shift in the palace air, the way people move differently around you, like you've changed costumes in a play but no one told you the new lines. Later, a note arrives, unmarked, slipped beneath your cushion. Beauty blossoms, roots spread, beware of gardeners. You burn the note, but the message lingers. The palace is quieter than usual today, not the good kind of quiet. No, not the peaceful hush of mid-morning prayer or the lazy silence of nap hour in the outer gardens. This is the tight-lipped side glance, something is bubbling under the surface kind of quiet. You feel it before you hear it. There's been an accident. That's how it's phrased at first. A misstep near the bathing stair. But when you pass the lotus courtyard, the hush deepens, and you see the crimson stain seeping into the cracks of white stone. Blood, and not the kind drawn from a clumsy cuticle. It's wife 5, or rather it was. No one speaks her name, no one announces her death, but her room is suddenly being aired out, her embroidered shawls removed, a morning bowl placed silently at her doorway. You pass it twice before realizing what it means. She drowned. That's the official line. Slipped on the wet steps beside the lotus pool, struck her temple and fell silently into the water. Tragic, graceful, almost poetic if you squint past the blood, except you know better. You saw her 3 days ago, giggling with a dancer over papaya slices. You saw her the day before yesterday, fanning herself near the aviary. And just yesterday, you heard her raise her voice, at wife 2. Over something as petty as sandalwood oil. You think back. Was there a push, a whisper, a bowl passed hand to hand? Amara doesn't answer your questions. She just places a new bundle of herbs beneath your pillow. To keep away bad dreams, she says. You don't argue. Not because you believe in the spell, but because something inside you is already tightening like a drum skin. You aren't the only one who feels it. That evening, wife 3 doesn't come to the shared prayer session. Wife 8 refuses to eat anything that hasn't been tasted by 2 separate attendants. Even the parrots in the garden seem restless, their cries louder, more shrill. And then there's the koi. You're sitting by the pond, pretending to read a scroll of poetry you've read 5 times already, when one of the older servants, a hunched man with too many keys and too few teeth, shuffles over with a bowl of crumbs. He tosses them into the water. The koi surge upward. Then silence. One floats belly up, then another. Oh, the old man says, scratching his head. That's the 3rd time this week. Poison? You ask before you can stop yourself. He shrugs. Maybe just old age. Maybe the gods are bored. You're beginning to see that in this palace, every answer is a deflection. every truth hidden behind a fan. The next morning, you discover your favourite robe has been torn, not accidentally, not by wear, by a clean slit just under the sleeve, small, deliberate, a message. You don't cry. You do what Amara taught you. You fold it carefully, you burn it, and then you go out to the harem courtyard wearing your second favourite robe, back straight, face blank. You learn to weaponize silence. That day you're invited, no, ordered, to the bathhouse with 3 other wives. You don't refuse. That would be suspicious. The bathhouse is steam and shadows and voices that echo more than they should. You keep your towel tighter than necessary. Wife 2 is there, lounging like a cat, her fingers tipped in crushed garnet. Wife 3, pale and sniffing, claims she has a seasonal sickness. Wife 7, surprised she's back, sits quietly at the edge, trailing her fingers through the water like she's testing for snakes. The conversations are all surface level. Oh, the orchids are late this year. I hear the Emperor has ordered new elephants. And do you think the new priest is too handsome for his own good? You join in. You laugh when they laugh. You nod, sip your mint tea and wait. Then wife 2 leans closer, smiles and says, "You remind me of a deer." You smile back. "Because I'm graceful?" She tilts her head. "No," she says sweetly, "because you look like you're always listening for danger." The laughter that follows is not kind. Later that night, you find something hidden beneath your sleeping mat. A single lotus petal dried and blackened. Another message, another warning. You don't sleep. Instead, you rise just before dawn and slip out to the eastern terrace, where the air is cool and no one watches. Or so you think. Wife 1 is already there. She's seated cross-legged, eyes closed, hands resting on her knees, meditating or pretending to. Her breath is slow, controlled. Without opening her eyes, she says, "You should stop walking alone." "I wasn't," you whisper, even though it's a lie. She finally opens her eyes. They glint like obsidian. "This palace," she says, "runs on 3 things: fear, favours, and forgetting." You blink. "Forgetting?" She nods. "No one survives here by remembering too much." Then she stands, brushes imaginary dust from her robes, and vanishes down the corridor. You stand alone on the terrace, the sun rising like a blade over the horizon, and for the first time you feel like you understand the game, not just how to play it, but how to win it. The lizard is already in your rice. You don't notice until you're halfway through the bowl and something shifts. A slick, rubbery texture not belonging to any grain. You pause, tilt your spoon, and there it is. A tiny gecko, lifeless and curled, tongue lolling like a pink ribbon. Your stomach clenches. Amara doesn't scream. She simply removes the bowl with eerie calm and hands you a cup of salted tamarind water. You rinse your mouth, heart racing. "Was it placed?" you whisper. She shrugs. "In this palace, everything is placed. You don't eat the rest of the day." That evening, during the hour of incense, the royal astrologer is summoned. He's an old man with eyes like polished coconut shell. Dark, unreadable, slightly amused. He's not usually one for small talk, but tonight he lingers near the pavilion where the wives gather. "There's an eclipse coming," he murmurs, more to himself than to anyone. "The moon will darken for exactly 47 breaths, not a second more." Wife 3 shudders theatrically. Wife 7 offers him a piece of candied ginger. The astrologer doesn't take it. "Eclipses are like mirrors turned backward," he adds. "They show you what you don't want to see." Then he turns and wanders off into the garden like someone who has already seen too much. Historians still argue whether Javanese court astrologers were true mystics or political pawns, but in this palace, no one dares ignore them, especially not when an eclipse draws near. It's a time of omens, of bad luck, bad blood, and suspicious deaths. You feel it too. The lotus pond hasn't bloomed in 3 nights. The koi are sluggish. The crows are louder than usual. Someone's sandals, those of a dancer girl, are found shredded outside the elephant stable, and no one can explain how they got there. She hasn't been seen since. Then there's your mirror. It cracks one morning. Not a spiderweb of fractures, not the result of heat or carelessness. Just a single clean line down the centre. Right through the space where your eyes meet. You stare into it. One half of you smiles, the other doesn't. Amara replaces the mirror without comment, but she begins brushing your hair more slowly at night, humming an old folk song about a girl swallowed by a banyan tree. That's when you start paying attention to the banyan trees. They're everywhere, twisting, looming, watching. One gnarled root near the outer wall looks disturbingly like a face. You ask a passing priest about it. He just laughs and says, "They grow towards secrets. You must have many." You do. You're collecting them now. In the bathhouse, you overhear that wife 8 is leaking blood, even though the moon is wrong. In the laundry courtyard, someone whispers that the emperor has been waking in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, demanding to speak to someone named Sari. There is no Sari listed among the living wives, and in the far north wing, a curtain is kept closed for 3 full days. When it's drawn open again, the floor beneath is scrubbed raw, the scent of camphor so thick it makes your eyes sting. One of the newer concubines collapses during a dance rehearsal. Her limbs twist oddly, like a marionette cut mid-performance. The healers say it's heat stroke. The others whisper about curses. You learn to read between their words. A cracked mirror means a divided spirit. A lizard in your rice means betrayal is already near. And sandals, when found out of place, speak of missteps, of someone falling out of favour. You dream again. In this one, you're walking down a long hallway filled with doors, each one marked with a different symbol. A snake, a moon, a burning tower. One door creaks open. Inside is the emperor, sitting cross-legged on the floor, his face blank, his hands covered in gold dust. He looks up and says, "Which one are you?" You wake with a start. That day, the lotus blooms, a single flower, deep red, unnatural for the season. The gardeners are called. The high priest arrives to inspect it. He declares it a moment of spiritual significance and recommends a cleansing ceremony. But you just stare at it, because you've seen that shade before. It's the exact colour of wife 5's blood on the stone. That night you find a bundle beneath your pillow, a packet wrapped in linen. Inside is a dried lizard, carefully tied with a hair from your own head. Amara's face tightens when she sees it. "That's not a warning," she says. "What is it then?" "A rehearsal. You sleep with a knife under your pillow from then on. It's not very sharp. It's ceremonial, really, used in rice blessings and moon rites. But it gives you the illusion of control. You cling to it. The palace is shifting. You can feel it like pressure in your ears before a storm. Servants shuffle faster. Guards look away when they used to nod. Wife 1, when you pass her in the corridor, gives you a single slow blink. Acknowledgement or threat, you're not sure. And then one night, you hear a whisper from the banyan grove. Not the rustling of leaves. A voice. It says your name, just once. Soft and cold. You don't look back. You're sharpening your eyeliner with the same focus a warrior might use on a blade. Amara watches from the corner, arms crossed, lips tight. "A little thick," she mutters. You glance at her through the mirror, your new uncracked one, and raise an eyebrow. "You want to look awake," she says. "Not like you've been up all night plotting." "You have been up all night plotting. Not assassination. Don't flatter yourself. You're not that brave, yet. But you've been calculating, watching, weighing risks like a court accountant with everything to lose. Because now you know what you are. You're not just the 9th wife. You're bait. And maybe, a blade. This becomes clearer after you're summoned again. Not to the emperor directly this time, but to a private ceremony. An intimate one, where only 5 people are allowed in the room. The emperor, a priest, wife 2, wife 1, and you. It's an offering to a local spirit. Something about harvests and protection and placating energies. You don't know the specifics, but you know this. You were chosen instead of wife 3. That's not a good sign. Wife 3 has been coughing recently. More than once, she's been escorted out of events for dizziness. She hasn't worn gold in days. The last time she passed you, her perfume, usually sandalwood, smelled faintly of camphor and salt. Salt wards off spirits, or invites them. Historians still argue whether harem rituals in Java were truly spiritual or thinly veiled political manoeuvres, but in this palace, the difference doesn't matter. The moment you step onto the black and gold mat laid out in the inner shrine, you know this is a test. The priest chants, the emperor watches, wife 1 kneels, motionless, a statue in silk, wife 2 smirks, you're handed a cup of something viscous and red, too dark for wine, too thick for tea. You don't ask what it is, you drink it. That's the role. The emperor smiles just slightly. When the ceremony ends, the priest murmurs that the spirits accepted the offering. Wife 2 glances sideways, just long enough to let you know. That wasn't always guaranteed. Back in your pavilion, your stomach twists. You vomit rose petals and bile. Amara says nothing, just holds your braid and brings you cool water. You didn't die, she says, as if that's the metric for a successful evening. You spend the next day in silence, and then, the next night, you get your first lesson in actual harem training. You knew the basics: etiquette, posture, flower arranging, embroidery so tight your fingers ache. But this is different. It begins with a knock on your screen just past midnight. You open it and find not a servant, but a veiled woman you don't recognize. She nods once and gestures. You follow. You're led to a part of the palace you've never seen. Narrow halls, stone steps, corridors that hum with the sound of distant water. Finally a small room, barely larger than a bathing tub. Candles flicker. A low table is set with combs, brushes, pins, and weapons. Tiny ones, a dagger no larger than your pinky, a hairpin sharpened to a needlepoint, a ring that clicks open to reveal a hidden powder compartment. Lesson 1, the veiled woman says. Her voice is low, smooth. Look like a lover, think like an assassin. She teaches you how to walk without leaving footprints on lacquered floors, how to fold a robe so that a blade can be concealed in the hem, how to tell if a goblet has been smeared with oil from the Caerley plant, a deadly poison that tastes like almond and regret. You want to ask who she is. You don't, because you know the answer would be a lie, or worse, the truth. From that night on, you start noticing who wears which combs, who chooses red dye for their nails, who never eats unless someone else does first, and who vanishes for an hour after midnight, always returning with their hair slightly mussed and their smile too perfect. You learn that messages can be passed through embroidery patterns, that white lotus is code for surveillance, that an offering of candied tamarind means either friendship or a final meal. You never eat tamarind again. One day you find a bundle in your bedroll, another package like the lizard, but this time it's just a note. Eyes see what mouths never say. Attached is a single bead, jet black, the kind worn only by royal guards. You're being watched. Or, worse, you're meant to know you're being watched. You go to wife 1 for advice. You don't say it's advice. You call it a courtesy call, dressed in your best indigo and silver. You bring a small gift, pineapple leather slippers, and compliment her birds. She doesn't speak for a long time, just watches the way you hold your cup of tea. Finally she says, "What do you want?" "To live," you say. She doesn't blink, doesn't smirk, she just nods. Then, pretty, clever, careful. You'll need to be all three. Before you leave, she gives you a parting gift. A hair comb carved from ivory, shaped like a crane. It is far too elegant for your rank. You've earned it, she says. You know what it means. You've just been armed. The bathhouse is steamy with jasmine-scented fog, but the heat doesn't hide the tension. You've learned to breathe through your mouth here. Not because of the perfume, but because of the words that float like smoke. Whispers. Half-lies. The kind of truths that make your skin crawl in the nicest way. Today the chatter is loud. Loud means someone's hiding something. You're seated on a warm stone bench, attendants pouring ladles of water over your back. It's meant to relax you. It doesn't. You listen. "Did you hear about the Eastern stable boy?" one girl murmurs while rinsing wife 7's hair. "Disappeared, just like that." "The 4th gate was unlocked last night," says another. "No," says a third. "It was opened." You meet Amara's eyes through the steam. She gives you the slightest shake of her head. Don't react. You don't. The bathhouse has no doors, only curtains. And every curtain breathes. You've long since realized you're never alone, especially not in the bathhouse. Spies love steam. It hides faces but carries voices. It softens secrets just enough to keep them dangerous. You start speaking in parables. A story about a snake who loved a bird. A tale about a rose that grew thorns after being plucked. Even the attendants pause to listen. You've found your weapon. Words, and you know how to wield them now. Wife. 4 corners you later. You're drying your hair when she slinks over, dripping in pearls, wearing a robe so thin it could be mistaken for ambition. You speak too prettily for a 9th wife, she purrs. You smile. Do I? Her fingers trail over a basin rim. Men like pretty words. Women remember them longer. You don't flinch. Then I hope you never forget me. The next morning, one of the bathhouse maids is reassigned. No one says why, but you notice your soaps have been replaced. No more jasmine, now it's vetiver. Strong, bitter, earthy. A new message. Stay grounded. You whisper it to yourself as you walk through the corridor that leads to the outer kitchen gardens. It's a place you're not technically supposed to go, but no one stops you. Probably because you're invisible to those who matter and too visible to those who know better. The spice cellars are behind the kitchens, past a creaking bamboo gate and beneath a stone stair. The air smells like turmeric and mildew. It's here the servants gather, smoke rolled leaves, swap recipes, and pass along whispers disguised as cooking tips. You hide behind a crate of shallots and listen. The Emperor is ill, someone says. You freeze. He hasn't left his quarters in 2 nights. Too much mango wine, another offers. No, they say he dreams of fire, of wings. Phoenix dreams, a woman gasps. He dreamt those before the Queen Mother died. Historians still argue whether dream symbolism in Javanese courts held real political weight, or was simply palace superstition. But here, the moment a dream is spoken aloud, it becomes prophecy. You duck out before they see you. Back in your pavilion, Amara is waiting. You smell like garlic. You told me to blend in. She doesn't smile, but she nods. You sleep early that night, but you don't sleep deeply. You wake to the soft scrape of bamboo over tile, a noise that doesn't belong. You reach under your pillow, fingers brushing the carved ivory comb Wife 1 gave you. Still there. Then, the whisper. Not a voice, a breath. The faintest whoosh, like someone blowing out a single candle right beside your ear. You sit bolt upright. No one. Just the open window. Just the chill. The next day, the Emperor finally appears. A short procession. No chariot. No trumpet. Just a quiet walk through the Frangipani courtyard. He looks thinner. Paler. But his eyes? Those are sharper than ever. Like they're scanning for something just out of reach. He doesn't speak to you, but he stops in front of your pavilion for exactly 3 seconds. Just long enough for the air to ripple, then moves on. Later, a eunuch delivers a message. Not a scroll. A flower. A single red hibiscus, slightly bruised at one edge. You know what it means. Everyone does. You've been noticed. Amara burns it while you watch. Neither of you speaks, and just when you think the day can't hold more shadow, you hear it again, from the banyan grove. Laughter, but not the kind that makes your chest warm. This laughter is wet, gurgled, close and far at the same time. You turn too quickly. Your foot catches on the stone path. You stumble, catch yourself. When you look back at the tree, a single leaf flutters down. Tied to it, a red thread. It matches the one you found in that comb weeks ago. You don't take it. You run. That night, Amara finally speaks the words you've been avoiding. There are watchers in the trees. You want to ask who or what, but she just says, "Don't sleep near open windows." You don't, but sleep comes for you anyway. And in your dreams, the banyan roots move, not grow, move. They curl, twist, stretch toward your bed, and something beneath them whispers, "You'll bloom last, or not at all." You wake gasping, your throat raw. Outside, the wind smells like vetiver and something burned. The invitation arrives wrapped in gold leaf and silence. You're summoned for a temple visit, one of the few times the wives are permitted to leave the palace grounds. On paper, it's an honour. A holy procession to Mount Penanggungan, a sacred peak where spirits of kings and gods are said to whisper through the stone. In reality, it feels like a test. Amara laces your robe tighter than usual, not by accident. She mutters, "The mountain's never just a mountain." You nod. You already know. The journey begins before sunrise. A caravan of litters, priests, guards, and carefully painted wives, all draped in colours too bright for the hour. You ride in the second-to-last litter, the 9th place perch, still low enough to be ignored, still high enough to be envied. The air is thick with morning mist and clove smoke. The hills are a green so rich they feel fake, like someone painted them for your benefit. But beneath the beauty there's unease. Even the birds sound uncertain. As the caravan ascends the winding path, one of the palanquins tilts, briefly. Just enough for a scream to catch in the wind. It's wife 8. She's fine, allegedly. No one speaks of it again. but her eyes are wide and wild the rest of the day. At the halfway point, the emperor steps out, not into the crowd, into the forest, alone. No one follows. You all wait. Minutes pass, then an hour, then 2. No one dares move. Finally he returns. His robe is torn at one sleeve. His hair is dusted with ash. His eyes, bright, like he's just spoken with something not entirely human. He walks past everyone and stops in front of you. You bow, low. He says, "You hear them too, don't you?" Then moves on. You're still bowed when the wind changes. The scent of ash lingers on your skin for the rest of the day. At the summit, a shrine of ancient stone squats beneath a Bodhi tree. The priests begin the rites, chanting, offerings, prayers for fertility, harvest, protection. You kneel and try not to look at the carvings, half-eroded figures locked in expressions of rapture or agony. It's hard to tell which is which. Historians still argue about that. Whether the mountain gods were gods of mercy or transformation. You pour your libation into a stone basin. The wine fizzes slightly. No one else's does. The priest notices. So do the other wives. You smile, like it's a coincidence. It isn't. That night, you don't return to your usual pavilion. You're escorted to a temporary chamber beside the temple, an honour, they say. The emperor has chosen 9 wives to remain for further meditation. But you notice wife 1 isn't among them, which means this isn't meditation, it's selection. Each room is sparsely decorated, stone walls, a single silk mat, an incense bowl that doesn't smell quite right. Your assigned servant is new, doesn't meet your eyes, you stay awake. Around midnight the bells ring, long, low and wrong. That's when the knocking begins, not at your door, at the walls, soft, rhythmic. Knock, knock, knock 3 times, then silence, then again, but further away. Knock, 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 you don't move, then you hear it. Feet shuffling in the hall, soft, hesitant, a whisper. Which one will it be? You press your back to the wall and wait. Eventually the night breathes out and the noises vanish. Morning arrives cloudy and thick. Fog coils through the trees like something alive. One wife is gone. No one names her. But you know, the extra litter on the way up is missing on the way down. No procession, no mourning, just missing. You descend the mountain in silence, flanked by guards who look everywhere but at you. By the time you return to the palace, the sky has shifted. The air is heavier. The emperor doesn't appear for 3 days. When he does, he smiles at you like nothing happened. Then gives wife 4 a ruby necklace. You don't sleep in your own pavilion that night. You sit on the edge of the lotus pond, feet in the cool water, and stare at the moon. It doesn't look real. It looks like a coin tossed too high. You went to the mountain, says a voice. You turn. It's wife 7. Her eyes are sunken, her hands wrapped in silk. You notice the tremble before she hides it. I did, you say. She sits beside you, not close, but not far either. There are things buried up there, she whispers. Bones that never got names. You nod. I saw a woman in white, she continues. Before the knocking started, she smiled. No mouth, just smiled. You look at her. Why are you telling me? Because they think you're next. You both stare at the moon. It doesn't blink. The palace is quieter now, but not the empty kind of quiet. It's the kind that feels full, full of watching eyes, full of words that hang just behind curtains, too scared to step into the light, full of footsteps that stop the moment you'll start. Wife 6 returns, or rather her screams do. It begins at midnight. A howl, sharp, animal, and wrong. You jolt awake, knife clutched tight under your pillow. The sound comes from the birthing pavilion, the one sealed with saffron cloth only weeks ago. They say she went into labour early. They say the child came too fast. They say the midwife passed out before she could speak a word. You believe none of it. By dawn, the saffron cloth is replaced with black. No child is presented, no name is recorded, and the midwife? Gone. Transferred to the monastery, the guards mutter. Sure, of course. Monasteries love midwives who scream about ghost fingers pulling babies back in. You ask Amara, do they ever survive? She pretends not to hear. Later she brings you tea and says very softly, some births are meant to bring joy, others are corrections. You sip slowly. The emperor is silent for 2 days after the birth. Then, one morning, he holds court. A quiet affair. No music, no fanfare. Just robes, incense, and the suffocating weight of everyone pretending they don't know what's just happened. You're not summoned, but you watch from the gallery, hidden behind a screen of woven gold and bone. The emperor sits like a statue. His fingers drum a rhythm that doesn't match the priest's chants. His eyes flick to the wives one by one. They all bow deeper. You stay still. You know this part of the game. Stillness is safety. Afterward, the palace enters what they call the soft season. Less celebration, fewer feasts, more prayers, more silence. You begin spending more time in the library. It's not exactly forbidden. Wives are allowed in, but it's rare. Most prefer the garden walks or embroidery chambers, but you want answers, or at least patterns. The scrolls are dry, dusty, half destroyed by mould and age. But in the back, tucked behind a cabinet of shadow puppets, you find something unusual. A record, not of kings, not of wars, of wives. Dozens. Some listed by name, others just by rank. 9th wife, 5th wife, 3rd concubine. Most with dates beside them. Arrival, departure, cause of disappearance. One entry catches your eye. 9th wife, moon year, disfavoured, died mid-month, ritual failure. No name, just ritual failure. You copy the phrase on a scrap of silk and burn the original scroll. Later, in the garden, you watch the gardeners trim the orchids. They cut anything that leans too far, that reaches too fast. They prune beauty into obedience. You see yourself in those stems. That night, Amara tells you an old story. Once, she says, a wife birthed twins, but the emperor said only one was born. The other was never spoken of. Not even the mother was allowed to remember. You ask, what happened to her? Amara doesn't answer. You dream again. This time, you're in the birthing pavilion. Only it's empty, cold, and on the floor, written in blood, correction. You wake to the sound of crying, not yours, from outside. A low, keening wail. You follow it. To the pavilion. The door is open, just slightly. Inside, no one. Just incense still burning, and a red thread tied to the cradle. You don't touch it. The next day a festival is announced. A distraction. Perfumed lanterns, music. Rice cakes shaped like birds. You're expected to smile. So you do. You wear your new robe, the one dyed with indigo and silver thread. The one that makes your skin look less afraid. The emperor appears in gold. He dances. Briefly. Then, during the final prayer, he walks directly to you. You've read the records, he says. Not a question. Yes, you reply. He nods. You think you understand, he adds. You don't answer. Let's see what you do with that understanding. He gives you a gift. A box. Inside, a mask. Porcelain. Painted with your own face. But the eyes, those are blank. Later that night you find a note folded into your pillow. If the child is a correction, what are you? You're back in the garden shed, not to pick flowers, not even for solitude. You're here because you were followed, and now you want to know by whom. The shed is old, shadowed, and smells like the inside of a closed book. No one uses it anymore, at least officially. Tools rust along the walls. A basket of cracked gourds sits in one corner, covered in dust. But you've been here before, briefly. You remember a loose floorboard, a hint of hollow space beneath. Today, you lift that board, and there they are. Scrolls, dozens, tied with faded ribbon and hidden so well even Amara didn't know. You open one, not a list, not a prayer, a poem, a forbidden one. You recognize the style, lyric, sad, a little too honest. These aren't works approved by the court. These are verses banned for saying too much, for speaking truth without the emperor's permission. The signature? A name you know only from whispers, Kirana, the scribe who was exiled, the one who loved too boldly and wrote too freely. Historians still debate if Kirana was a woman disguised as a man, or a man punished for writing in a woman's voice. But what matters now is that their work is here, and it speaks of someone like you. The ninth, always the ninth. Too late to bloom, too soon to rot. You shiver. A creak. A footstep. Someone's outside. You slip the scroll into your robe and press yourself into the shadows. Your breath slows. You listen. The door opens. It's not a guard. Not a wife, a servant. Young. Dirty hands, eyes darting. He steps inside, looks around, doesn't see you. Then, under his breath, he says, "Did you find it?" To the air. You freeze. He waits. No answer. He turns to leave. You don't stop him. When he's gone, you wait a full 5 minutes before you move again. You memorize 2 of the poems, then burn them. Your eyes sting from the smoke. The rest you rebury. For now. Back in your pavilion, Amara sees the soot on your fingers. "Don't tell me," she says. "I won't." That night you lie awake, whispering the lines to yourself. One couplet sticks. When lotus roots begin to writhe, the gardener brings out sharper blades. The next day, wife 2 falls ill. Publicly, which is rare. She doesn't hide it. She wants everyone to see. Her pallor, her trembling hands, the way she clutches at her side as though something inside her has curled up wrong. The healers say heat sickness. The priest says a misalignment of energies. She says nothing. But her attendants, 3 of them, have been reassigned. One of them sobbed while folding towels in the courtyard. You suspect poison. Not fatal. Not yet. Just persuasive. Then comes the offering. A box, sent to you by a friend. Inside, a comb carved in the same shape as the one wife 1 gave you, but cracked. A message. You hold it in your hand like a question. What are they offering? A warning? A threat? Or are they asking, whose side are you on? That night, you return to the shed. Again. This time, you aren't alone. A figure steps out of the shadows. Not a wife, not a servant, a scribe. Thin, with ink-stained fingers and tired eyes. "I saw you," they say. "Reading Kirana." You tense. "I burned it." "I know," they say. "I watched." Silence. Then, "They were trying to warn you, Kirana, all of us." You step closer. "Why me?" They shake their head. "Because you're 9th. Because you're quiet. Because they think you'll fold." You don't. Instead, you ask, "What happened to the last 9th wife?" They answer too quickly. "She loved the emperor." You inhale. "And?" "She died," they say. "Loving him didn't save her. Neither did hating him." You ask, "So what does?" They smile. Sad. Tired. "Leaving?" "Impossible." "No, just rare." You leave the shed with more than you came for, a name, a plan, a truth. You return to your pavilion, scrub the soot from your fingers, and hide the tiny ink-marked slip the scribe gave you under the rug. It says, "The Southern Gate. New moon." 1 whisper is enough. You don't sleep. You write a poem instead. It ends like this. "I was not born for gold or grace. I was born to leave this place." The wedding box shouldn't have been opened. It's wrapped in blue silk, embroidered with cranes and clouds, symbolizing loyalty or escape, depending on how you read the thread. You haven't touched it since your first night in the palace. It was a gift from the emperor, or more accurately, from the palace itself. The box is supposed to stay sealed, like the memory of who you were before. But this morning it's open, just a crack. The silk is disturbed, and inside something new waits. Not a letter, not a gift, a mask, porcelain, bone white, and shaped with impossible precision. Its mouth is fixed in a closed, gentle smile. Its eyes, not hollow like a puppet's, just blank. As if they're waiting for your expression to fill them. Your stomach tightens. You've seen this face before. It's yours, but not your face, not quite. A little too soft, a little too perfect, like a memory of you filtered through someone else's fantasy. Amara sees it and says nothing. Just folds the blue silk back over it and places a bowl of salt water beneath your window. You don't ask what the salt water is for, you already know. "Someone placed it here," you say aloud. She nods. You ask, "What does it mean?" Her voice is flat. "That someone wants to remind you you're a role, not a person." Later that day, a servant brings you a message from the emperor. He requests your presence at the Hall of 9 Echoes. It's a small pavilion in the West Wing, usually reserved for music performances and incense readings. But today, it's silent. You enter barefoot. The floor is cool beneath your toes. The walls are lined with bells, tiny ones, no bigger than peach pits, hung from gold-threaded cords. When the wind passes through, they whisper. The emperor waits alone. He doesn't smile. "You've been busy," he says. You say nothing. He gestures. A seat, a dish of honeyed figs, wine. You don't touch them. He reaches into his robe and produces a second mask, identical to the one in your box. He places it between you. "Do you know what this is?" he asks. You answer, "A warning." He tilts his head. "A mirror." You hold his gaze. "You gave it to me once," he says, "and you didn't even realize." You want to ask, "What have I reflected back to you?" But you don't, because the wind shifts and the bells ring, not like music, but like morning. He says, "I dreamed of you last night. This time your mouth is dry. In the dream," he continues, "you wore a crown of ash, and birds followed you even into fire." Historians still argue whether Javanese rulers believed their dreams were prophetic or simply divine games, but emperors dream in symbols, and symbols are dangerous. You ask carefully, "Did I burn?" He leans back. "You walked through it." Then he waves a hand, dismissed. You rise, bow, and leave. Back in your pavilion, the mask has moved, slightly. The smile is the same, but its angle now faces the window. You close the lid of the box. You weigh it down with your heaviest book. But that night, you dream of the mask. Only it's not resting anymore. It's speaking. Its mouth opens impossibly wide and says, "You must choose the face you die with." You wake, breath sharp, nails dug into your own palms. There's blood on your silk sheet. Just a drop. A reminder. You go to the aviary. You feed the birds, not because they're hungry, but because they're witnesses. Creatures too fragile to lie. One parrot says something strange. "Too pretty to keep." You freeze. It repeats, "Too pretty to keep," again and again, until Amara comes and covers its cage. Later that evening, Wife One sends you a note. Just a folded fan. Inside, a line written in crushed pearl. If he gives you a mask, wear it, but never let it wear you. She doesn't elaborate. She doesn't need to. You're wearing masks every day now, smiling when you want to scream, sitting still when you want to run, and always wondering, if they already decided your role, can you rewrite the ending? You begin practicing your steps, mapping the palace in your mind, counting the tiles between your room and the south gate. You learn which guards are lazy, which ones nod off, which ones owe favours to women with sharp tongues. You say nothing to the scribe, but you know the night is coming. The new moon is just 3 nights away, and you still have the note, the southern gate, new moon, one whisper is enough. But now there's a new question curling in your ribs like a vine. What if the mask isn't just a warning? What if it's an invitation? There's something wrong in the kitchens. You feel it before you hear it. The usual chatter of cooks, the clang of ladles, the laughter of girls peeling ginger on the steps. It's all gone. In its place, whispered instructions, careful footsteps, bowed heads, and the smell. Not of curry or fried shallots. This is rot. Something sweet that's turned slow and secret and hidden deep. You make an excuse to walk through the kitchen courtyard. You see it in their eyes, the fear, the fatigue pretending not to be fear. A pot boils over. No one moves to clean it. One of the cooks, old enough to remember 3 emperors, mutters, "It's the blight." A younger one shushes her so fast she nearly drops her ladle. You sit near the well and wait. Eventually someone talks. "The rice," a servant girl whispers, eyes darting. "It's gone grey, spoiling before we even cook it, and the spices, some come in hollow." You don't know what hollow means in this context. She shows you, a nutmeg pod that crumbles into ash when she cracks it open. You ask where they're stored. She shakes her head. Not safe to say. Later that day, Amara brings your tray. You poke at the rice. It's yellowed, but not with turmeric. You eat the fruit instead. Even that tastes off. You spend the afternoon walking slow loops through the garden, pretending to admire orchids, but really you're tracing something else. Patterns. The blight isn't just in the food, it's in the air. That evening, one of the outer couriers collapses at the gate. Skin pale, breath shallow, no wounds, just drained. As if something peeled his spirit right off the bone. They say heat stroke. You say nothing. But you notice how, from the balcony, the Emperor watches. You see his hand clench. Once, then release. You retreat to the pavilion and light no lamps. You sit in the dark, and for the first time you listen past the usual sounds. You hear breathing that doesn't belong to you. Outside, under the floorboards, gone before you can move. That night you visit the spice cellars again. This time the old woman is there, the one with no teeth and too many stories. You offer her a dried persimmon. She accepts, then nods once. Do you want to hear the ghost story? She asks, like she's offering a bedtime tale. You nod. There was a wife once, she says. Long ago, they say she wore red every day, even to bed. Said it made her luckier. But one day she found her slippers filled with beetles. That night she coughed up petals. The next morning, gone. You say, was she the 9th? The woman grins. Always is. You ask, what happened to her? She leans close. She became the blight. You leave the cellars with more questions than answers. Back in your pavilion, your robe is missing, not misplaced, removed. In its place, laid neatly on your bed, a red one. You haven't worn red since your arrival. Amara doesn't say a word when she sees it, just ties the sash tighter than usual. Tonight, she asks. Maybe. She hands you a strip of cloth. For your eyes, she says, so you can sleep without seeing too much. You tuck it under your pillow. You don't use it. Instead, you stay up and think of the rice, the rotting spices, the stories of vanished wives, and the emperor watching his world curl in on itself. You think about the mask, you think about the scrolls, and you think, is this rot a punishment or a choice? Because someone is spreading it, and someone maybe is allowing it to spread. The next day, the palace announces a cleansing, a full one. Shrines washed, offerings tripled, cooks replaced, guards reassigned, wife 3 escorted to the monastery for health. No one mentions her cough. You know this is panic, not purification. And just before sunset, a message arrives. From the scribe. You unwrap it in private. It's short. The blight isn't in the food, it's in the silence. You burn it. Quickly. Carefully. But the words linger in the air like smoke. That night the emperor walks alone through the inner courtyard. You watch from the shadows. He speaks to no one. But his lips move, as if whispering to the plants, as if asking the lotus blossoms for forgiveness. You realise with a strange chill that the palace is rotting from the centre. Not because someone poisoned it, but because it's remembering everything it ever did, and everyone it tried to forget. They choose you to dance, not the temple girls, not the trained concubines with swan-like wrists and paper-thin veils. You, the 9th wife. It's an honour, they say, a divine right. You know better. When the palace selects you for a ceremonial dance, it isn't because you're graceful. It's because someone wants to see how steady your feet are as under pressure. The ritual is ancient, performed only during eclipses or during years when the Kalpa winds blow from the west. You don't know if the wind qualifies, but the air is strange lately. Thicker, sharper, like something is coming and doesn't want to wait. The dance is called Ritus Pemberbason, the dance of release. But release for whom, exactly? You ask no questions, you nod, you bow. You let the dressers smear your arms with crushed sandalwood and gild your eyelids with flakes of beaten tin. They bind your hair into impossible knots. You're dressed like an offering, meant to be admired, then unwrapped by gods or men. Amara adjusts the anklets. Don't stumble, she whispers. You nod again. She presses something into your palm. A petal. Red. Dried. Still warm somehow. If anything goes wrong, she says, bite it. You don't ask what it does. You just tuck it beneath your tongue. When they lead you to the performance hall, the emperor is already there. He sits beneath the silk canopy, surrounded by the other wives, each glowing with the glint of lamp oil and jealousy. You can feel it across the room. Wife. 2 smirks. Wife 1 watches without blinking. You step barefoot onto the cool stone. Flutes begin. Drums follow. You move. Each step has meaning. Each sway of your hip echoes centuries of tradition. You're no longer a person. You are story. Gesture. Ghost. You turn 3 times. The emperor closes his eyes. You raise your arms in the shape of a dying tree. He smiles. Then your ankle slips. Just slightly. Enough to jolt the rhythm. Enough for wife 4 to gasp. But not enough for anyone else to notice. You recover. Fast. You finish the dance. The applause is muted, ceremonial, but the message is clear. You were watched, measured, and you nearly failed. Back in your chamber, you spit the petal into a dish. It's dissolved. The water around it has turned blue. What would have happened, you ask Amara. She doesn't answer, just pulls a small cloth over the dish. Drink this instead, she says, handing you a cup of cinnamon water. You do. You fall asleep hard. In your dream you're still dancing, but the floor keeps shifting, lotus petals sliding over blood, and the Emperor is laughing. The next morning your door is sealed. Not locked, sealed. A red thread has been tied across the entrance in a figure 8. You don't touch it. Amara cuts it for you. She says, "Someone's testing your limits." You say, "Did I pass?" She shrugs. "You didn't fall." Later, a gift arrives. A fruit basket. Perfect mangoes, sweet plums, a single fig, cut open like a secret. And at the bottom, a tiny silver bell, like the ones from the Hall of 9 Echoes. You recognize it. It's your bell. The one that was tied above your seat the night of the mask ceremony. You don't keep it. You drop it into the koi pond and watch it sink. The koi ignore it. The sky begins to change the next day. Dark clouds, not rain, but something heavier. Everyone can feel it. Servants sweep corridors twice. Guards stand straighter. Even the birds fall silent. A priest is summoned. Then another. Then a third. Triple cleansing. You know what that means. The palace is preparing for a death. You just don't know whose. At night, a breeze carries a new sound through the walls. Whispered prayers. And something else. Scraping, stone on stone. You follow it to the southern colonnade. There, etched newly into the pillar that faces the moon gate, are 3 words. Bloom, bite, burn. You run your fingers over them. Fresh. Too fresh. A message or a prediction? You don't sleep. Instead, you rewalk the steps of the dance. In your mind, you feel again that moment where your ankle slipped, just barely. And you ask yourself, was that the test? Or the invitation? They come for you just after dusk, not with torches or trumpets, not with shouting or accusation, just presence. Silent, heavy-footed guards in robes that don't rustle. 2 women behind them, attendants or watchers, you're not sure. No one explains. Amara opens the door before they knock. She doesn't look at you. She just says, "Wear the comb." You do. You say nothing as they escort you barefoot again down the cool stone corridors toward the pavilion by Angan. The Shadow Pavilion. It's never mentioned in public. You've only heard of it in parables. A place where justice isn't proclaimed, only implied. Where rank doesn't matter, but performance does. It isn't a trial. It's a reckoning. Historians still debate whether these midnight tribunals were formal institutions or feared myths designed to keep the wives compliant. But in the hush of your steps, in the breath of the guards, in the soundlessness of the palace around you, you know it's real. You're brought into a circular room lit by 9 lanterns. 9. You are seated on a mat that smells faintly of ash and old perfume. A curtain parts. Behind it, the tribunal. You don't see their faces, just shadows behind silk. Figures blurred by light. They speak in turns, voices modulated, old, cold, unimpressed. The 9th wife is accused of forgetting her station. That's the first line. Not murder, not betrayal. Forgetting her station. You let them speak. You've learned. Silence is its own blade. You've read forbidden texts, one says. You've consorted with scribes, another accuses. You dance with too much mind, that's a third. That one stings more than it should. You speak only once. To be 9th is to see what others forget. A pause, a breath, then laughter. Soft, dry, unsettling. She has wit, someone murmurs behind the curtain, and teeth. And then the question you feared, do you wish to rise? You understand the trap. Say yes, and you mark yourself as ambitious. Say no, and you confirm weakness. So instead you say, I wish to survive. Another pause, a longer silence, then a voice you recognize, though you can't place it. Survival is expensive. Another, what will you pay? You whisper, everything but myself. The curtain ripples, the lanterns dim. A final voice, colder than the rest, says, we will watch. You're dismissed. You don't remember standing. You only remember walking back with legs that don't feel like yours. Amara meets you at your door. She places a bowl of warm water at your feet. washes them, dries them, doesn't speak until you're seated. They didn't mark you. What does that mean? They're waiting, she says, to see if you'll mark yourself. You go to your mirror. The comb is still in your hair. The ivory crane, you remove it. You sleep without dreams. But when you wake, the mirror has fogged from the inside. You draw your finger across the glass and reveal 2 words written in the condensation. Almost ready. The day passes like a prayer said too often. Habitual, empty, unsettling. You begin noticing changes. Wife 2 no longer smirks. Wife 7 avoids your gaze. Wife 1 sends you a new robe. White, trimmed in scarlet thread. Amara frowns at it. They want you visible. You wear it anyway. That evening a eunuch brings you a peach. Not a tray, not a bowl, just one perfect peach. You hold it in your hand for a long time before biting it. It's overripe, soft, bleeding juice down your fingers. You eat it all and feel nothing. Not relief, not sickness, just anticipation. As the moon rises, the bells in the Hall of Nine echoes ring once, then again. You walk toward the sound, barefoot. Your feet remember the path. The Emperor waits there, alone. He offers you a mask, not the same one. This one is gold, smiling. Its eyes are closed. He says, "Wear this, and you'll never have to answer again." You ask, "What happens if I refuse?" He doesn't answer. You take the mask, but you don't wear it. Not yet. Later that night you sit by the lotus pond and speak to your reflection. You say, "They watched. I walked. I did not fall." And the pond, silent as ever, offers you no reply. But the koi gather, every single one. And that's answer enough. The Emperor is ill. Not just the kind of vague, courtly unwell used to explain a missed audience or a slow procession. No, this is something heavier, real, and deeply inconvenient for everyone who profits from his presence. It starts with coughing. Not dramatic, just frequent, controlled. Then the fevers, then the dreams. You don't see him for 4 days. When he returns, it's not to the throne hall, it's to the shrine room. He's wheeled in, swaddled in silks, surrounded by priests who chant so hard their lips crack. You watch from the gallery, silent. His eyes are glassy, but he speaks. "I saw the phoenix." Gasps ripple through the shrine like a wind through dry leaves. You know what that means. Phoenix dreams are rare, respected, and feared. Because in the old stories, when an emperor dreams of the phoenix, something ends, and something burns. He locks eyes with you. You're not supposed to be here. 9th wives don't attend rituals unless summoned. But wife 1 got you in. With a nod and a simple lie, she carries good luck. Now you wonder if she meant it as a compliment or a test. The emperor speaks again, his voice low, cracked. The phoenix flew west, a murmur, a flicker of movement from the priests. That direction means death, not rebirth. But he doesn't look scared. He looks relieved. They carry him away. Wife 2 collapses in the hallway later that night. Fainting from worry, they say. You suspect otherwise. No one has seen her eat in 2 days. Wife 1 sends for you. You find her at the top of the west tower staring out at the sea. Her hair is unpinned, her sleeves loose. "He's slipping," she says. You nod. "I thought we had more time." You ask, "For what?" "For him to name a successor." You blink. "Not a son?" She laughs, dry, sad. "The boys are too young. The priests will choose, but they'll listen to whoever holds the seal." You ask the question before you even mean to. Do you hold it? She looks at you, and you realize she's trying to decide something about you. Finally, she says, "You'll know soon." She leaves you there. The sky's full of smoke, not fire, just incense. A thick, cloying cloud that hasn't lifted in days. The priests are burning offerings non-stop, for healing, for protection, for clarity, but it smells like fear. You return to your pavilion and find it rearranged. Subtly. A vase moved, a mat shifted, a screen angled differently. Someone's been inside. Amara confirms it, quietly. "They didn't touch your clothes," she says, "but they left this." She hands you a feather, long, red, too red. Not a peacock, not a parrot. It's carved. Wood, painted carefully, weighted like a charm, a phoenix feather. You hold it and feel your stomach drop. This isn't a gift, it's a blame. Someone is tying the phoenix dream to you. Later that night, the scribe returns, in shadow, behind the outer curtain. You meet there, under cover of moonless sky. He says, "You're being prepared." For what? To be the reason. The reason for what? He doesn't answer, just gives you a new note, a single word. Soon. You ask, is he dying? The scribe nods once. Or being helped. You want to scream. Instead, you whisper, "Will I be blamed?" He shrugs. If you survive, it doesn't matter. Before he leaves, he gives you a slip of silk, folded tight. Inside, a map, not of the palace, of the beneath, tunnels, forgotten stairs, hollow walls, the escape path, your way out, but not yet. Not yet. The next morning, the Emperor doesn't rise. Wife 4 takes to her bed. Wife 7 leaves for pilgrimage. And you're summoned to his bedside. He's alone. You kneel, low. He beckons you close. You move until you can smell the cinnamon on his breath, the copper of sickness in his sweat. He says, "I remember your dance." You nod. He says, "You didn't fall." You nod again. Then, "But you're ready to." You look up and see it. He's not confused. He's deciding. And in that moment you realize, this isn't illness. This is selection. He's choosing who takes the story next. He leans close, so close your cheek brushes his, and he whispers, "When I go, let it burn." The mango is soft when you bite into it. Too soft. You pause, a beat too late. The sweetness sits on your tongue a little too long. The aftertaste is wrong. Bitter, metallic, almost like chewing on a coin. You don't panic. You learned not to. You place the mango slice back on the tray, smile at no one in particular, dab your lips with a linen square, then walk calmly to the balcony. You lean over the edge and spit. Not dramatically, just a quick flick of the mouth, like a girl discarding a seed. The juice stains the marble below a dark amber. Amara appears in the doorway behind you. You don't have to say anything. She sees the mango, she nods. She leaves. You hear the rustle of cloth, a murmured exchange. She returns with a cup of strong tea, bitter, full of herbs that make your skin crawl. You drink it. Every drop, you retch once. But nothing comes. Timing, Amara mutters. A little later it would have worked. You ask, was it her? Amara doesn't ask who you mean. Most likely. You're not the only one being trimmed from the story. The Emperor hasn't spoken in 2 days. Not aloud, at least. But servants whisper that he moans names in his sleep. Names of past wives. One was exiled. One vanished. One, they say, walked into the sea. Now he says your name too, the palace notices. Suddenly you're not ignored. You're protected. Too protected. 2 guards are stationed outside your room. One follows you discreetly to meals. You're assigned a new chambermaid. She wears no perfume. Her eyes don't blink enough. She's not here to tend you. She's here to record your movements. To be the one who says, "Yes, I saw her. She was alone." You feed one of your meals to the cat who sleeps near the eastern tiles. He sniffs it, hisses, and leaves. You eat nothing that night. Instead, you write. You write a list of the wives still present. The ones silent. The ones smiling too hard. You add a mark next to each. A red dot for ambition. A gold line for fear. A blank space for the ones you no longer trust yourself to judge. Only 2 names remain unmarked. Wife, 1, and yours. You hear footsteps outside your room. 3 quick knocks. Then a pause. Then 1 knock. Soft. The code. You open the door just enough for the scribe to pass a folded paper through. Inside, a single phrase. Tonight, the gate opens. You feel your heartbeat slow, not speed up. This is it. You've waited, prepared. But now you remember the cost. Escape means leaving Amara. The scribe warned you. Servants can't run. They're too visible, too known. You sit beside her that night as she oils your hair. Amara, you say. Do you regret it? She smiles. Which part? All of it. She sets the comb down. No, only that I didn't leave when I had the chance. You're quiet for a while. Then you whisper, "Will you help me go?" She says nothing. But when she leaves, she brushes your shoulder once, slow, deliberate. A goodbye. You don't cry. You light a small lamp and stare at the flame until your tears dry on their own. Just before midnight you rise. You wear no gold, only grey. You walk softly through corridors you now know by scent. You reach the southern gate. It's open, just slightly. A slit of freedom. Then a voice. Where are you going? You turn. A eunuch. Young, pale, frightened. You know him. He brings fruit sometimes. He always stutters when he says your name. He steps closer. I won't tell, he says. But please, take this. He presses something into your hand. A pendant. Old. Worn. Shaped like a lotus. It was my sister's, he whispers. She tried to run too. You ask, did she make it? He shakes his head. But then he adds, maybe you will. You nod. You slip through the gate. The air outside is colder than you expected. The stars sharper. You walk. Through shadowed halls, past the banyan grove, where just once the wind whispers your name. You ignore it. You walk. You reach the wall. And there, half hidden beneath vines, is the stair. Just like the map promised. You descend. Your feet are silent. Your breath steady. And still, behind you, you hear a sound. Soft. Choked. You turn. It's Amara. She's just far enough to be fading into shadow. She doesn't speak. She just bows. Once, and you bow back. Then you disappear beneath the palace, and the air tastes clean. You thought escape would feel like freedom. Instead, it feels like dampness. The tunnel beneath the palace is older than the palace itself. Crumbling brickwork, air thick with mould, and the smell of things that have never seen light. Your sandals stick with every step. Water drips somewhere ahead, irregular and echoing, like a heartbeat that's starting to forget its rhythm. You keep walking. The map is sewn into your memory now, left at the collapsed shrine, right after the rat skull, up past the tree root that looks like a hand. The scribe said it would take an hour, but time here stretches, like a veil. You pass murals, ancient, peeling, painted in a style you don't recognize. One shows a woman with 9 arms, another shows a lotus on fire, a third is just eyes, dozens of them, staring. You don't linger. You climb a short staircase slick with lichen and emerge beneath the lotus shrine. Of course, it's poetic in the cruel way this palace loves. You escaped the belly of the beast, only to surface in its ribcage. You know this place. The shrine is abandoned, technically. The priests still light incense here during high festivals, but most days it's just dust, birds, and whispered stories. You sit on the stone steps to catch your breath. That's when you notice the carvings. You've seen the lotus pattern before, but here the petals are different. Each one etched with something, a name. You run your fingers over them. Adira, Saka, Mira, then Kirana, the scribe, and beneath that, Sari, the name the emperor whispered in his sleep. They're not decorations, they're grave markers, or memory stones. You stand quickly, suddenly aware of just how watched you feel, even out here. The shrine may be old, but it remembers, it keeps things. You step away, back onto the path that leads to the outer gardens where you'll meet the contact, the one who promised a boat, passage to Bali, maybe even farther. But your steps slow, because at the edge of the garden something glints, a necklace, gold, with a pendant shaped like a womb. You've seen it before. It belonged to wife 6, the one who bled and screamed and disappeared. You walk toward it. The grass beneath your feet is dry, too dry, and then you see them. Bones, half buried in the loam, small, curled, a fetal shape, no bigger than your palm. You cover it, carefully, silently, and walk on, because now you know. They were never lost. They were buried. The garden is full of them. Children who weren't convenient, wives who weren't lucky. You feel the bile rise again, not because you're sick, because you're angry. The palace didn't just forget them, it used them, swallowed them, painted over them with flowers and ponds and soft music. But underneath, always this, always the truth. You reach the gate. There's a woman waiting. She's older than you expected, wrapped in plain fabric, no jewellery, no scent, but her eyes are sharp. Do you have the seal? She asks. You shake your head. She doesn't blink. Then you're not done. I left, you say. Did you? She asks, and then she steps aside, revealing a mirror. Not a large one, just a hand mirror, set on a tree stump. The frame is bone. You stare into it and see yourself, but not you. A version of you with gold paint on your eyelids, a comb in your hair, a silk robe you burned weeks ago. Palace you. The version they made. She says, if you still see her, you're not free. You hesitate, then close your eyes. Breathe. When you open them again, the mirror is blank. You look back to the woman. She nods once and hands you something wrapped in linen. A comb, not ivory, wood, plain, unadorned. She says, now you can go. You don't ask where the boat is. You just follow her. And for the first time since you arrived at the palace, your steps don't echo. They land softly, as if the world is welcoming you back, as if the earth has finally decided, yes, this one lives. You don't look back. That's what everyone says in stories, right? Don't look back. But you do. Just once. You glance over your shoulder as the path bends around a curtain of vines, as the palace slips from view behind the trees. And what you see isn't towers or courtyards or lotus ponds. It's shadows, long, patient, waiting. They don't chase you. They don't need to. The palace never runs. It just waits. The woman, your guide, your ferryman, your final miracle, walks ahead without a word. Her steps are sure. She knows this route. You wonder how many girls she's led away. You wonder how many made it to the river. You reach it at dawn. Mist clings to the water like a second skin. The boat is small, just wide enough for one. Where does it go? You ask. She doesn't answer right away. Then, where you aren't ninth anymore. You want to cry at that, but tears don't come. You climb in. She unties the rope, pushes the boat gently from the bank. The current takes you. The trees rise on either side like arms preparing to close again. The sky brightens. You pass rice paddies, empty. You pass villages sleeping. You pass a man leading a cow who stops to stare at you like he's seen a ghost. Maybe he has. You think of Amara, of her hands in your hair, of her silence. You think of the Emperor, of his final words, when I go, let it burn. And you realize he didn't just mean himself. He meant the whole machine, the hierarchy, the ritual, the forgetting. You pull the wooden comb from your sleeve, grip it, raise it, and toss it into the water. It floats for a moment, then sinks, like a memory you choose not to carry. The river bends again. You feel a lightness in your ribs, an ache lifting. Then something catches your eye. On the bank ahead, smoke, dark, thick, rising. The woman didn't lie. You aren't the only one who left. You step off the boat into a new silence, different from the palace hush. This one isn't watching you. This one is letting you be. You walk barefoot through ash-dusted grass and find the clearing. A fire still smoulders in the centre. Someone's have already begun. Scrolls, robes, boxes, masks. All of it burning. You add nothing. You just sit. And for the first time in months you breathe without listening for footsteps behind it. Someone offers you water. You drink. Someone sings a lullaby you only heard once before. You hum along. You're not asked who you were. You're not asked what you did. You're simply handed a name. Not the old one. Not the palace one. A new one. One that fits your mouth without choking it. You wear it like a crown. And the girl beside you, a girl with a scar under her eye and smoke on her fingertips, leans close and says, we write the rest. The sun climbs. Not over palace walls this time, but over trees, over riverbanks, over a stretch of earth that doesn't know your name. And that's the gift, isn't it? You're no one here. No rank, no title, no silk-shrouded shadow trailing behind you. You walk now without guards, without eyes in the lattice, without the weight of always being too visible or not visible enough. The clearing has grown since yesterday. More women arrive, some silent, some laughing like they've never heard their own voices bounce freely off leaves before. One brought her grandmother's prayer beads, another carries a rooster under one arm. They've all come from somewhere, and they all somehow look a little like you, not in face, in survival. A girl with a crooked tooth teaches you how to trap rainwater in a banana leaf. Another shows you how to walk on coals because it's good for the souls and the soul. You think she's joking, until she isn't. You learn to sit still again, not from fear, from peace. Your hair is no longer braided with gold. Now it's wild, free, and you've never felt more like yourself. But the palace still lingers, in dreams, in echoes. You wake sometimes thinking you heard the scrape of sandals, a bell, the soft hush of silk in the dark. You wait for the masks. They don't come. Instead, the wind brings stories of fire. They say the east wing collapsed, that the koi turned the pond red, that a wife stood at the top of the tower and recited a poem before vanishing. No one agrees which wife. Everyone agrees it was earned. You sit by the fire one night and speak for the first time. I didn't run, you say. I walked. The others nod. That's the difference. Running is panic. Walking is power. You carve something into a piece of driftwood. Not your name, your truth. She saw, she stayed, she left anyway. A bird sings above you, not a parrot. Not a trained songbird in a gilded cage. Just a bird, wild, untamed. You hum along. The trees lean gently. You take off your shoes, step into the dirt, and realize this is what it feels like to be alive without permission. You are the girl who was chosen last, the one who wasn't supposed to survive the game. But here you are, breathing, blooming, not behind palace walls, but beneath them. The wind carries your laughter, and someone, somewhere, maybe back in that crumbling palace, might still whisper your name. Let them. You've written a better one now, and you don't need anyone else to speak it for you. You're safe now. The shadows have quieted. The palace has faded into memory, like a dream that almost caught you but didn't. Your heartbeat slows, your breath evens. The fire beside you is soft, its crackle more lullaby than warning. Let yourself sit a little deeper into the earth. Feel the weight fall off your shoulders. You don't have to watch the doors anymore. You don't have to wait for someone to decide your fate. It's yours now. All yours. The story you walked through was never gentle, but you were. You learned when to speak and when to stay silent, when to play the game and when to rewrite the rules, and most of all, you learned to leave before the walls could bury you. That's bravery, even if it didn't feel like it at the time. As you rest, know this. You're not forgotten, not by the trees, not by the river, not by the wind that carried you forward when your feet trembled. They remember you, not as a number, not as a wife, as a woman who walked away from a burning dream before it consumed her. So take one more breath, deep, slow. Let it anchor you to now. You made it. The 9th wife, the last one, the one who lived. Close your eyes and drift, 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 and drift,